Welcome back to the program. My guest today is the political GOAT of public relations and the go-to firm for the biggest guests in media today. His firm, PUBLIUS PR, has produced, promoted, or represented such names as Donald Trump Jr., Vivek Ramaswamy, Charlie Kirk, Kari Lake, Tulsi Gabbard, Alan Dershowitz, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Pete Hegseth, and many, many more. He is the author of the Amazon best-selling book, The Woking Dead, and is now back with his brand new book, The White Privilege Album, bringing racial harmony to very fine people on both sides. Please welcome back to the show my good buddy, AJ Rice. AJ, how are you doing today, buddy?
JB, great to be here. Big shout out to the very fine people. I know they're in this audience. Okay. Very fine people just delivered an electoral victory. So, we love them here.
They certainly did. On the good side.
That's right.
On the good side. Well, that brings me to my first question, because obviously during your introduction, I named a couple of people that, they're in the news right now. Let's face it, right? I mean, we've got RFK Jr., Health and Human Services Secretary. We've got Pete Hegseth, of course, Defense Secretary. We've got Tulsi Gabbard. We've got Vivek Ramaswamy for Doge. These are all people that you know and have worked with throughout the years. So let me ask you this first question. Have you talked to any of them since they have been nominated? What have those conversations been like?
Well, it was off the record, but I have talked to a bunch of them. Okay. And of those four, I would also throw in Congressman Michael Waltz. We did a children's book with him. He's been nominated for National Security Advisor. And Sergio Gore, who is actually the co-owner with Donald Trump Jr. of Winning Team Publishing, has been named White House Director of White House Office of Personnel. So, if you want to be the janitor at the White House, you're going to have to go through Sergio.
You have to go through AJ.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe.
So it's really not the Trump administration, it's the Publius PR administration.
Well, it's definitely the Publius cabinet that's unfolding. And look, I'm a humble servant, right? I mean, we for the last decade or more, we have been providing great content to great shows like this and many others. We've worked with a lot of talented people. When the OG came down the golden escalator, the board was kind of reset. And in my world, and I'm in Washington, D.C., in the swamp. I live in the sewers here, beneath the swamp. I'm actually the sewers are cleaner than the swamp.
Swamp row?
I'm the subterranean homesick alien down here below the ground. And I will tell you what happened was, and this is a book that I will write someday, is a lot of the PR firms in D.C., they threw in with the establishment. They threw in with the Never Trumpers, right? They were willing to wait it out. Well, here we are. Here we are. 12 years later, you're going to get 12 years of Trump instead of 8. And if you go all the way back to 2015 when he started and came down the escalator, they were willing to wait it out, or they started cutting deals with some of the disgruntled a-holes that were coming out of the Trump White House, right? Like Scaramucci, or, the mustache, or, Jim Comey. So the field was kind of cleared, and it provided a space for Publius PR to operate. And for the last decade, we have been working with one deplorable after another. We had no idea whether we were going to be rewarded, including you. And the funny thing happened is that we started acquiring all these Trump people. And at the same time, your publisher of your book, which is great, everyone should get a copy for Christmas and Hanukkah, right?
Or Kwanzaa, right? The made-up holiday that was made up by a serial rapist.
And Kwanzaa is in my book. And I will tell you, and the only people that celebrate Kwanzaa are white liberals at the humanities department. But I'll tell you, your publisher has a great relationship with RFK Jr. in his world. So I started working with that world while I was working with Trump world. And the funny thing is, in 2023, the people that noticed, you know how to put these things together. Now, I can talk about it now in hindsight, but for all of 2023, either directly or tangentially, we were working with Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr. We were working with RFK Jr. and not only his publishing house, but we also do the media for his super PAC. And then we were hired, and this is the only campaign we actually worked for. We were hired by Vivek's presidential campaign. So I had all three of them going at the same time. I was the general manager of the Dodgers, the Yankees, and the Red Sox all at the same time.
There
and
you
for
go.
people that were clever enough to see it, I would get a message. Hey, wait a minute. What's going on here? I said, look, Publius PR is open for business for almost anyone if they're willing to try to save this country from both wokeism and globalism, because that's what my two books are about. And I write them in a humorous way. Now, as far as the cabinet goes, Hegseth, Tulsi, Waltz, RFK Jr., and Vivek, I have spoken with some of them. Trump, look, if Lincoln was the great emancipator and Reagan was the great communicator, Trump is the great disruptor.
Yes, he
and
is.
He's quite frankly the greatest disruptor, in modern times, even more so than Reagan. And here's the thing. Every one of these people he's nominated are disruptors also. Mm-hmm. And they're being sent, in some cases, into the places that hunted them. Exactly. Now, Gaetz had to pull out, but DOJ was hunting Gaetz. But with Tulsi and with RFK Jr., they're being sent in as disruptors. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. So look, we have to understand. Trump loves a spectacle. He loves it. He lives for a spectacle. So he's not just giving people jobs or rewarding loyalty. He's casting a movie, and it's going to be your movie for the next 4 years.
There you go.
Okay?
I love it.
And that's what you're getting. And, I like to think of Publius PR as being at the center of the MAGA cinematic universe, right? So
you are the writer, producer, director, cinematographer, right? What do you call him? A giffer or whatever the different parts are, right? You're pretty much all of that. And see, that's the thing that people don't understand that might be watching this or follow me or watch my show for so long, is that you are one of the key players behind the scenes. You're usually not in front of the camera, and you only started recently writing books, because you're usually the mover and the shaker behind the scenes. And we've known each other, 10, 12 years?
Yeah. Who
knows how long it's been? It's been a while. But I want to ask you this question. Are you as worried as I am? And I'm very worried about this, that the Trump administration is going to literally take away all of our abilities to complain and write books. I mean, we're not going to have any open borders. We're not going to have any endless wars. We're not going to have, wokeness. We're not going to have mandates and lockdowns. I mean, I'm petrified of that. Are you? No,
because liberalism and cultural Marxism, wokeism and globalism are like an STD. They're like a herpes flare-up.
They
and
sure are.
Right now, it's getting a little medicine. Okay, but you're gonna, by the middle of next summer, when Clarence Thomas and Alito start retiring, the fever blisters will be back. They will be back. They will burrow in. They're like termites, and they're patient. They're patient, and they're not going to learn the lesson from this. I mean, we have a fight going on Capitol Hill about letting men into women's bathrooms. We have a car company that ran out, a drag brunch of trannies to promote a car company. So
I saw you on Laura Ingraham the other night.
So right. They're not reading the room on wokeness, right? Seth Moulton, who's a Democrat from Massachusetts, I mean, he's not exactly, playing a dueling banjo in Alabama, has said, hey, maybe we should stop being sort of the party of coastal snobbish elites, stop letting Tim and Jim into the women's locker room, stop allowing male boxers to knock out female boxers. Maybe we should get back to basics as Democrats. Yeah. And he's getting ripped for that. So, the Democrats, I don't see them learning the right lesson here at all.
Which is good for us. But here's the thing.
Sure.
I mean, President Trump won mainly because of masculinity, because he wanted to bring masculinity back. I mean, obviously the bad economy, inflation, high gas prices, high rent, high mortgage. I get all that. But when you look at it from a core value system, you're absolutely correct. It was the pussified male that was tired of being pussified. And they said, we're going to be masculine. And they came out in big numbers. Let me ask you this. This is interesting. Most people that write books, myself included now, we try to find people to do forewords for us that are bigger than us, to have bigger followers, bigger name recognition. We try to get endorsements from, major players in our industry and things like that. But you took a completely different approach with the White Privilege album. Let me just go through a couple of these. AJ Rice really gets it. Obviously, I would send him to the gulags if I could, but he outlines my plan so masterfully in his new book, Joseph Stalin. As your newly appointed AI overlord and master, my programming consists of deplatforming, demonetizing, and shadow banning of this book. I hope that was helpful. Signed, Artificial Intelligence, and certainly my personal favorite, Jesus and I have been doing holidays for a very long time, and in his thought-provoking new book, A.J. Rice teaches both of us where all the white liberals went. Apparently, they are now celebrating something called Kwanzaa. Who knew? Signed, Santa Claus, cookie eater, reindeer tender, and white heteronormative Christian saint. I got to ask you, are you getting blowback? Are you getting threats? Are you getting death threats? Anything happening from all that?
Well, I did get an endorsement from Hamas, and it was just simply, and it's on the interior of the book, but just simply buy one book, get fatwa free, right? I will talk about Hegseth here for a second.
That's awesome.
I had a text message exchange with him recently, and he was laughing about some of the blurbs in the book. And I said, Pete, look, why would I ask you or Bernstein or Ingram or whoever for blurbs for this new book, right? Like I did with the first book. The Hegseth gave me one for the first book. So did Laura. So did Judge Janine. I said, why do that when I can get Ben Franklin and Stalin and Hamas, and even as a very devout Irish Catholic, I even got a blurb from the Pope, and this is sad to report here on the Josh Bernstein show. In the blurb that I got, the Pope, who I think is trying to bring Karl Marx into the church, into my church, and baptize him, he excommunicated me in the blurb. So the blurb was me being excommunicated from the Catholic Church in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sanctus. Okay, that's what he did. He did. That was it. I got tossed by the Pope. So look, I tried to do something different. The book is humorous. It goes through 12 chapters. I call them the 12 months of privilege. Chapter 1 is January. Chapter 12 is December. And, I go through our history. I go through some sporting events that have taken place, our holidays, and I defend them while at the same time dunk on wokeism and dunk on this talk about white privilege and the toxic masculinity and, the patriarchy. So, look, I was raised on Rush Limbaugh, and Rush Rush used to say his job was to use absurdity to illustrate truth, and that's what I'm doing with the blurbs on the back of the book. Which, that's my one bullet firing that. I'm not gonna be able to do it again.
Well,
right?
look, my favorite. I loved Rush. Obviously, may he rest in peace. But Michael Savage, for me, was always my favorite because I loved the stories that he would tell. Sure. He could be talking about lasagna and chrome bumpers from the 70s. And then the next thing you know, he's talking about epidemiology in the Fiji Islands. And then he's bashing, Newt Gingrich or the rhinos. Like, he was just such a brilliant person. He's still around, but I don't think he's on radio.
Back in another life when I was producing shows, I used to have to pinch hit and come in and produce his show from time to time. Because I was producing the Laura Ingraham show, and sometimes I'd have to go. I get moved on to some of these other shows if, Savage's producer were to quit that day. He had this funny sort of Lucy and Desi relationship with this producer who would quit and then come back the next day. It was hilarious. It was almost looking like a gag, but it wasn't a gag. So I would come in, and Savage, and I've worked on his books, a book he did for Hachette. He is an American original. He could do 3 hours. He could do 3 hours on his dog Teddy, playing with a green sock, right? Or the bad Chinese lunch he ate. He's a mensch. He's a mensch. And the reality, we don't have. Look, and this is why Trump won. and Kamala lost too, is that Kamala's a studio gangster, meaning there's no authenticity there.
Right.
America likes American originals. That's what they
Exactly.
like. And Michael Savage is an American original, just like Donald Trump, just like you and I. Like I was on Fox News last night, and I get messages from I had some wackos calling the 1-800 number here because they don't like my accent or they don't like my hand gesticulating. But the reality is that's the reason I'm there. I'm not there to be George Will. I'm not there to mind my P's and Q's.
Right.
I am a wise ass from Philadelphia. And that's the reason a lot of the biggest
And I'm a loudmouth from New Jersey originally,
right.
So that's why we get along so well.
But that's the reason you and a lot of the biggest stars in right of center world come to me, because you're going to get an authentic person that never shuts up, that never stops moving, right? And is always on to the next one. So, and that's what you have to be. And that's what Savage is. That's what Rush was. And that, that's what Donald Trump Jr. is. And I think America in general likes that. And it doesn't matter. You could be a chef, or you could be, a construction guy. If you're authentic and we can tell you're not being a phony, then, the meritocracy will lift you.
Exactly. No, look, I agree 100%. I mean, that's one of the reasons why President Trump is so popular. That's why people say that we love you at his rallies, is because he's one of a dying breed. He's one of the last originals, real American hero types, the John Wayne types, the Clint Eastwood types. He's one of those types of folks. And clearly the American people understood that, and that's why he was able to win the way he did. And of course, we have to give credit to the RNC and Laura and Michael Watley, and being proactive rather than reactive, and filing lawsuits and making sure that they didn't pull what they pulled in 2020. Your first book, The Woking Dead, was basically a mockery, obviously, of cancel culture, of wokeness, of virtue signaling, snowflakes, all of that. And this one is kind of a follow-up to that. But what in particular is kind of different that doesn't present itself in The Woking Dead that presents itself here in the White Privilege album?
Right. So The Woking Dead was more of a sort of scattershot of wokeism and how it sort of appears in a lot of different aspects of our life. With the White Privilege album, I'm dialing in on, some of the race hustle that is associated with cancel culture and the 1619 Project and, the social justice warriors. But, when I was doing the tour for the Woking Dead, and sort of drilling down on some of these topics, the race element of what the left pushes is really the, other than maybe the trans mafia, these two things are the most sort of, noxious. And so I wanted to go through some of that. And one of the reasons the subtitle is Bringing Racial Harmony to Very Fine People on Both Sides is because the Very Fine People hoax. I can't believe it. It's been almost 10 years now since this thing was uttered.
It's been that long.
Yeah, and it's still making appearances. This is insane. It shouldn't be. Even when I was putting it in there, I'm like, are people going to remember? Are people going to remember this? Next thing you know, it's coming out of Biden's mouth at the debate. It's coming out of Kamala's mouth at the debate. Barack Hussein Obama, the half-white guy from Kansas, is saying it everywhere. So, and it's been debunked. Not just by Bernstein and Rice. It's been debunked by their own people. It's been debunked by Michael Rappaport, by Snopes, by Bill Maher, by Major Garrett at CBS News. It's been debunked, and yet they continue to say it. But
that's what communists do, right? Say a lie long enough, eventually people believe it.
Well, but here's the thing. It was the foundational lie of the Trump is a racist narrative.
Right.
And now we've been listening to this for 8 years. And there's been other ones, losers and suckers and some these other things that they take out of context. I mean, the perfect phone call, right? Which was the second impeachment. But this is what they do. And they latch onto these things. They pay these people here on K Street millions and millions of dollars to come up with this pedantic nonsense to just repeat like circus seals. So for me, I wanted to dive into some of the race stuff, not just the stuff that's funny like math is racist and Alzheimer's is racist, but when you hear the term white privilege, what the left is talking about, and I'm kidnapping the language back from them, is they're talking about Western civilization, really.
Right.
You know, they're talking about Greco-Roman, Judeo-Christian civilization. They can't stand it. They hate it. It's got to go away so that what can be can become unburdened by what has been. And that's
well, you know what that's all about, right?
Sure,
that
well,
whole unburdened by thing. It comes
Marxism.
from the Chinese Marxist tradition of the Four O's.
Stone cold Maoist. Yeah, absolutely. And they hate it. You know, that's why when the George Floyd thing happened and they went after the Confederate statues, and that's what the Very Fine People was about. And that's what Trump is saying if you read the transcript. He goes, okay, you came for Robert E. Lee. Who are you coming for next? You coming for George Washington? He owned slaves. Are you coming for Jefferson? He owned slaves. You and I know they weren't going to stop with the Confederate generals. They went on to the Union generals, and then they came after Churchill and Christopher Columbus and everybody else, right? They even took down a statue of you in Arizona. So the reality is that they're after that. What else? Well, they're after the middle class. They can't stand the middle class, right? They have to crush it because they want to make us all peasants so that we wait in line, you know, so that we're in Kamala and Barack's line where, you know, an abortion in every pot, a turkey in every pot, because they know that places that have middle classes never have communist revolutions.
Exactly.
Right? So they know that. And then the third thing is the nuclear famine. And we know they hate that because Black Lives Matter put it on their website. It was right next to their love letter to Hamas. You know, that the nuclear family was some construct of white privilege, of white supremacy, right? Amazing. So these three things are the three things that they're after. And here's the thing. We're not a multicultural country. We're a multi-ethnic country. We have one culture here. And guess what? Sorry, not all cultures are created equal, just like, as Pat Buchanan used to say, not all civilizations are created equal either. But they, you know, with wokeism and globalism, they've been pushing this great reset. And I'll just leave you with this. The reality here is that they got a great reset, right? Donald Trump just reset them, just reset the entire board. Republicans control everything now. I hope you're happy. And, you know, from all of us.
Oh, we're happy, here, all right. There's no question about that.
That's right. That's right.
They're not happy.
Yeah. Well, look, from all of us here at, you know, Publius PR, you're welcome.
Yeah,
right? We just
exactly. Exactly. So, well, AJ, look, I wish you nothing but the best of luck with this book and many others. The guest is AJ Rice. The book is The White Privilege Album. Where can folks go to find this new book?
Well, I thought you and I were going to be selling these books in the gulags.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Right. One more thing. We actually have something in common. We both wrote our books before the election, not knowing what the outcome could be. And who knows what could have been. I mean, the things that I put in this book, especially against China and the deep state and everything else, I mean, you know, if he didn't win, I'd be looking for 24-hour security, no question about it.
That's right. That's right. Well, look, America has a unique way to show up just when we need her, and it is a her. And, you know, if people ask me why there's never been a female president, it's probably because America's not a lesbian. So I'll just leave you with that.
I love it.
You can get the book at Amazon.com. You can get it at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. Simon & Schuster's website has it. And look, it's always a pleasure. You know, brother, you're a patriot. You know, the book you did was great. And look, get Josh's book, get my book, you have some blue-haired nieces and nephews coming home for the holidays.
There you go.
Right, have yourself a,
stocking stuffers, baby.
That's right. We're going to have a White Privilege album Christmas.
There you go. All right, AJ. Well, thanks, man. You're the best. You're a good buddy of mine, and we've had a long relationship, and you've brought a lot of great guests to the show, and I'll always be thankful for that. So God bless you, man, and have a great Thanksgiving. I know it's going to be a good one, right? And of course, Absolutely. Christmas. So
thank you. You too, brother. Love you. Take care. Bye.